Okay, you're listening to 91.3 Lagos Talks. It is time for The Office. Happens on Thursdays from 7:30 4:30, I beg your pardon, up until 5 o'clock. We get to bring in HR experts to come enlighten us on a few things regarding the profession. And of course, you know that The Office is proudly brought to you by the Chartered Institute of Personnel Management of Nigeria, CIPM, and Lagos Talks 91.3. Today, like I told you, it's all about talent. Talent, Talent. So for the next 30 minutes, I will be having this conversation with our guest this evening. My name is Kolawole Falodu. So let's get started. Our guest this evening is a man born in the village of Turaki, Plateau State in central Nigeria. His early education saw him attending LGED Primary School, Durowa. He attended Datiem Memorial College, Zamko, between 1982 and 87. He graduated from the University of Jos, Plateau State, Nigeria, with a second-class upper degree in political science in 1994, and later studying for an MBA degree at the Lagos State University, LASU, between 94 and 95. His academic distinctions include Best Graduating Student at DMC in 1987, Second Best Graduating Student of Political Science at UniJOS in 1994, amongst others. So we're speaking with an FCIPM. His name is Dr. Bako Nanzing. Good to have you join us. How are you, sir?
I am fine, Kolawole. Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
Good
evening, depending on where you are.
Well, I think I don't know. I think we're in between afternoon and evening. Some would say that evening starts from 5. Some would say it starts from 4. But it's all good. Good evening or good day to you, and happy holiday.
Thank you, sir. Happy holidays, and happy holidays to the listeners as well.
All right. I think it's Eid Mubarak. So yes, it's the ideal salutation is Happy Eid Mubarak to everyone.
Right. Happy Eid Mubarak.
All right, Dr. Bako, good to have you join us once again. This is The Office, and we look forward to a fantastic conversation for the next, say, 25 minutes. Now, today our topic is developing organizational talent. That's our topic this evening. And I'm sure you've got a wealth of experience to share with us. I can see what year you finished. You even got your MSc. It's been a long time. At least you've been in this game nothing less than 25 to 30 years, if I'm not mistaken.
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct.
And by the way, if you're listening to us, Dr. Bako Nanzing, FCIPM, is the managing partner and CEO, Afro Nexus Limited. So we're speaking with an expert, a seasoned expert as far as HR practice is concerned. So let's get to it this evening. What are the key challenges organizations encounter in developing and retaining talent, and how can these challenges be effectively addressed to, ensure sustained growth and success?
Okay, thank you very much, Kolawole, and once again, good afternoon, good evening, listeners. Well, to begin with, perhaps because we do not have a lot of time, would have been apt to perhaps talk about what talent is, but briefly speaking, we probably all should understand that talent refers to the abilities, capabilities, and dexterities resident within individuals working or functioning in an organization. So, taking off from there, the challenges that organizations normally encounter are very wide-ranging, depending on the organizational growth stage of the particular organization we're looking at. However, generally speaking, they include lack of awareness, costs, and then a myriad of other implementation issues, which perhaps we will touch on as we go on in this discussion.
All right, fantastic. So what roles or what role does leadership play in creating a conducive environment for talent development within organizations? And What would you say are some effective leadership practices in this regard?
Okay, so let's break that down into two components. The first role that leadership should play is the role of being awareness about the criticality, the significance, and relevance of having a very resourceful talent pool within the organization. So once that awareness exists, that is, the leadership understands that it is in a war with other organizations, similar or different, for talent within the workforce, then that is a step in the right direction. Now, after that, normally what we hear from our practices and across board is that organizations often talk about cost. How much do I have to invest in my people in terms of how much to put in for their development, for their resourcing, for their upskilling, and the likes. That is rather sort of like a myth, actually, because there are nowadays, especially with technology, and I think we may come to that at the end of this conversation, there are quite cost-effective ways to do it. But that's one that we hear a lot in the industry. That is in the practice of HR. But basically, the role of leadership is awareness and then resource mobilization. Because, of course, you know that within organizations, the leadership has the responsibility of mobilizing and managing resources. And these resources include human, financial, and otherwise. So these elements of leadership are important in identifying, developing, retaining talent within organizations.
Fantastic. So when we talk about talents, I'm very tempted to also chip in the concept of professionals or the element of professionals in this regard. You mentioned talents. You could also describe the human resources as perhaps professionals. Do you want to give us a quick difference between the two? Who is regarded as a professional? Who is a talent? And how do we differentiate both of them? Also, I want to also know the difficulty in replacing, for example, a talent compared to a professional.
Okay, so basically, professionals are a subset of talent. Talent refers to the totality of human capabilities that function within an organization. So they could be top-level talent, and mostly in Nigeria, when we talk of professionals, we're talking about people who have undergone years of development, either through schooling or some kind of apprenticeship and other professional investments over time. Those are considered the professionals. But you would understand that in an organization, generally speaking, you have other people as well, the lower cadres, the factory hands, as an example. These are all talents within the wider definition of the concept. But in specific terms, the people whose contributions matter in defining the critical success of an organization normally would be the professional cadre, because they are expected to manage and lead the other talent groups or the lower talent groups onto organizational success, as it were.
Okay. All right. You're listening to The Office here on Lagos Talks 91.3. We're speaking with Dr. Bako Nanzing, FCIPM. Now, Dr. Bako, how can organizations effectively identify and, harness the potential of their employees, ensuring that their talents are aligned with organizational goals and objectives? Because I know some of the key objectives of the HR unit is to ensure that the goals of the human resources, as the human beings that work within the organization, are aligned with that of the organization in question. So how can organizations effectively identify and harness potential talents of employees and ensure that it's aligning with that of the company?
Right. So in order to effectively look, understand this, let's just take a brief back step and understand that within the employee life cycle, which is when, a talent comes into the organization or is recruited into an organization, it is expected that such talent will be managed, developed, motivated, deployed, and other such processes within HR, within the life cycle of that individual in an organization. And then, of course, eventually at the end of career or end of stay, whatever that is, then the person is exited out of the organization. Now, in this process, attraction is important through your brand positioning as an organization. Now, once that brand positioning attracts the individual to join, then you need to now implement other things that will now retain that talent, develop that talent, and normally in traditional times in the past would rely heavily on training, other development interventions and the like. But the advent of new technologies, the internet, today we're talking about AI and the likes, have brought new ideas on board on how you can develop and, add value to talent. So that being the case, that is one critical function where the organization needs to then motivate the employee, appropriately deploy the talent where it is most useful, most functional, and most impactful. And then in all of this,
okay.
Individual is.
I think that there's a problem with the connection.
Are you with me?
Yeah, you're back. You're back with us. Yeah, we lost the connection for a few seconds.
Apologies.
Yeah. Dr. Bako, are you there with us? Okay, let me just try and see if we can reestablish connection with our guest this evening. You're listening to 91.3 Lagos Talks. Can you hear us now? Okay.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay, sir. So those.
Okay. Let's see if we can reestablish connection with Dr. Bako. You're listening to 91.3 Lagos Talks. This is The Office. We do this on Thursdays like this from 4:30 up until 5. And we are talking about developing organizational talent. Dr. Bako Nanzing, FCIPM, is the one who's our guest this evening, giving us some professional perspective to this particular issue. So whilst we wait for him to join us or rejoin the call, okay, I think he's back with us. Can you hear us now? Your mic is okay.
Right. So the network has been jumping. Apologies again.
All right, no problem. Yeah.
So I was making the point that performance management is also critical in this process of ensuring that organizational objectives are aligned to individual or employee talent.
So in a case where something happens, maybe something monumental happens to an individual and he sort of like derails his plans, or he maybe he has a change of heart in terms of his objectives, what are the tools or the processes that could be employed to immediately detect that sudden shift? Because of course you must have known what each person or each individual is gearing towards in terms of objectives, but some things can happen. Some things can happen along the line that could change his objectives or change his orientation entirely. Are there ways that HR professionals can easily detect these sudden occurrences?
Okay, yeah. So I don't know the specifics of what you may be looking at, because of course in HR, as you understand, is highly contextual. You would have to understand who the individual is, what the issues are, and then what the organizational context as well is at the time of the occurrence. And whatever the issue is, HR does possess functional tools to identify and to mitigate, as well as intervene as necessary if such is detected. But I do not know, when you say the individual has an issue, is it like he has poor performance at work, or is he planning on leaving, or are there other issues developing? Now, whichever it is, there are a number of specific HR measures and tools that can be available to the HR practitioner, working in concert with the person's line management to mitigate and intervene as appropriate. HR is always up to the task in that regard.
All right. So,
or should be up to the task.
Okay. All right. In what ways let's talk about diversity now. We are dealing with a pool of talents that come from different nooks and crannies of life. So diversity comes to play in this regard. So in what ways can diversity and inclusion activities or initiatives contribute to talent development within organizations and towards the organizational success? And what are some of the best practices for implementing such initiatives?
Right. So you would understand that, generally speaking, my people up north here have a saying that one hand cannot lift a roof. So basically what you need is a collection of talents, because one single individual or one single talent person or area cannot give results in an organization. So from that conception, you'll find out that even the concept of diversity and inclusion is innate, is contained within the concept of a vibrant talent pool within an organization. Now, of course, nowadays there are a lot of diversity segments and issues that have come to the mainstream. But if you stay with the most relevant one for the context of any given organization, you'll notice that it is critical for an organization to understand that I need a wide perspective, a wide array of individuals with different capabilities contributing at different levels in order for me to excel to the level that is designed or desired by organizational management. Now, that being the case, generally across board, organizations tend to use quite a number of tools. Some use, effective succession planning systems. Others use aspects of performance management, anchored by HR and line management, in order to ensure that all these elements come together in a strategic fit, sort of an intricate and delicate dance that ensures that teams deliver optimally and sustainably for the overall good of the organization over the long term.
All right. It's interesting to know that tech has a role to play in today's methods that HR professionals are getting involved in at this point. But our final question, and we have I'll push in some other follow-up questions as we proceed towards the end of our conversation. You're listening to The Office here on Lagos Talks 91.3. We have Dr. Bako Nanzing, FCIPM, is a managing partner and CEO, Afro Nexus Limited. Definitely has a lot under his belt over the years, and we're learning from someone who is experienced and seasoned as far as HR practice is concerned. A question here is quite straightforward. Dr. Bako, how can organizations now adapt their talent development strategies to meet the evolving needs of the workforce? We have a lot of people working differently right now in 2024 compared to what it was in, say, 2010, 2005, particularly in the face of technological advancements and changing market dynamics. How do you think organizations can adapt their talent development strategies towards meeting these evolving situations?
Right. So a bit of a personal story. I came of age in this profession at a time when technology was far less developed than it is today. And in those days, working in training, what we used to call training in those days, in order to send somebody on a skills improvement program, you would have to work in conjunction with the line manager, identify the training need, document it, recommend the appropriate training program, and then process the nominations of the individual, send him on the training, which typically is off-site, and then he goes for a number of days, comes back and you debrief, and he writes a report. And, you can see the whole gamut of administrative tasks. But here we are, a number of decades now, and you and I are witnesses to what AI can do. The technology is still unfolding. Even those who we seem to think are at the top of it are saying that we are just touching the tip of the iceberg, as it were. So yes, talent has come full circle. We have gone from permanent and 8 to 9, 9 to 5 jobs to the gig economy, where people can sit in their rooms and hold jobs and deliver solutions across the world and all of that. So talent has gone full circle. But one thing that is relevant is also to understand that in those days when all of these technologies started to emerge, there was within the HR profession a kind of apprehension whether the HR profession will remain relevant into the next decade and century or not. Interestingly, here we are, and even with the advent of AI, HR is still holding its turf. And that's because the human component of organizational life will still remain what it is. Even the developers of AI will tell you that there are some things that AI cannot do. There are some things that only humans can do. And that is the